The training hall aboard the alien warship Valkyresh thrummed with the energy of over 100 combatants. Its walls were adorned with holographic banners of the Zarnak Dominion, a federation of warrior species renowned for their ruthlessness in battle. The air was thick with the scent of ozone, sweat, and tension as warriors sparred in controlled chaos. Every species present, scaled Kravix, the multi-limbed Forlak, and the towering, armored Graxons, had one thing in common: their shared disdain for the lone human standing in the center of the arena. "Is this a joke?" scoffed Commander Theric of the Graxons, his voice like grinding stones. "The Dominion sends us a human? What next? Will we be training against livestock?" The human in question, Lieutenant Cole Vin, didn't flinch at the jeers. He stood there in his plain combat suit, unarmed, with his unremarkable height and wiry frame. By all appearances, he was laughably out of place among the towering, grotesque aliens who lived and breathed war. Theric stepped forward, his clawed feet thudding heavily against the floor. "Do you even know where you are, human? This is not your puny Earth Army's playground. This is where warriors are forged through blood and pain." Cole's lips curled into a small, unreadable smile, and he inclined his head. "I know exactly where I am, Commander." The room erupted into laughter. Forlak warriors clicked their mandibles in amusement, while Kravix warriors hissed their derision. Even the coldly analytical Drala strategists, who rarely showed emotion, allowed themselves an uncharacteristic smirk. Theric narrowed his glowing yellow eyes at Cole. "You'll regret that arrogance, little human. Bring out the SentryBot." A hush fell over the room as a towering, gleaming machine stomped into the arena. The SentryBot was a hulking, humanoid war droid designed to incapacitate and brutalize. Its armor bristled with spikes, and its eyes glowed crimson as it scanned the room for its target. "This is your combat test, human," Theric announced with a sneer. "Survive 2 minutes, and perhaps we'll consider you worth training. If you die well, no one will mourn you." Cole stepped forward calmly, rolling his shoulders as the SentryBot's metallic fists whirred to life. "Only 2 minutes? That's almost insulting." Theric growled in disbelief, but the crowd cheered, eager to see the human crushed. "Begin!" The SentryBot lunged with mechanical precision, its fist hurtling toward Cole like a battering ram. The human sidestepped at the last possible moment, his movements so smooth they seemed almost lazy. The bot's fist slammed into the ground, leaving a crater in the reinforced floor. Gasps rippled through the audience, but they were quickly drowned out by jeers. "Fluke!" shouted one Forlak. "Run while you can, human." But Cole didn't run. He moved with an almost unnatural calm, his eyes locked on the SentryBot as though he were studying it. The bot attacked again and again, each blow more ferocious than the last, but Cole danced around them with an ease that defied logic. "Stop dodging and fight," Theric roared, his claws raking the air. And then it happened. Cole stopped moving. The SentryBot's next attack was a brutal downward strike, aimed to pulverize him where he stood. But instead of dodging, Cole raised his hands and caught the bot's fist. A sound like thunder echoed through the hall as his body absorbed the shock. The room fell silent. Even the SentryBot seemed to pause, as though confused. Then Cole smiled, a wide, almost predatory grin that sent a chill through everyone watching. What is he doing?" hissed the Dralath tactician, her usually composed voice trembling. The SentryBot pulled back and recalibrated, preparing a flurry of attacks. But Cole didn't wait. He launched himself at the machine with a burst of speed that no one had anticipated. His fists were a blur, striking the bot's joints and critical circuits with pinpoint precision. Sparks flew, and in less than 30 seconds, the once formidable SentryBot was reduced to a smoking heap of scrap metal. The silence in the arena was deafening. Cole turned to face the stunned crowd, his grin still in place. Was that supposed to be the warm-up? For the first time in centuries, the warriors of the Zarnak Dominion felt something they hadn't experienced on the battlefield: fear. Commander Theric's fists clenched so tightly that the armor on his knuckles groaned under the strain. His glowing yellow eyes darted between the smoking ruin of the SentryBot and the human who stood there, completely unscathed. Around him, murmurs of disbelief spread through the alien warriors like wildfire. "No one's ever dismantled a SentryBot like that," whispered a Kravix warrior, his forked tongue flicking nervously. He didn't even use a weapon, muttered a Forlac, her mandibles clicking in agitation. Theric slammed his clawed hand against the railing, silencing the crowd. Enough, he bellowed, his voice reverberating through the hall. He pointed a claw at Cole, his expression a mixture of anger and something more unsettling, unease. You think this proves your worth, human? That was a machine. Let's see how you fare against real warriors. The crowd roared its approval, though there was a noticeable edge to their enthusiasm. The combatants who had mocked Cole earlier now exchanged uneasy glances, as though wondering who would be foolish enough to step into the ring with him. Theric turned to a massive Forlac warrior named Krish, a hulking figure with 4 serrated arms and a reputation for leaving his opponents in pieces. Krish, enter the arena and show this human what real combat looks like. Krish hesitated for a moment, his compound eyes flicking toward the human. There was something about that smile, the way it lingered, the way it seemed to see through you, that made his carapace itch. But he wasn't about to let fear show in front of his peers. With a guttural hiss, he stepped forward, his claws clicking ominously. Cole tilted his head, his smile fading into something more neutral, but no less unsettling. 4 arms, huh? I guess that means I'll have to move twice as fast. The comment drew a ripple of laughter from the crowd, though it was forced, an attempt to mask their growing discomfort. Krish lunged without warning, his claws slashing through the air in a blur of deadly precision. The sheer speed of his attacks was enough to overwhelm most opponents, but Cole didn't even blink. He weaved through the onslaught like water flowing around a rock, his movements impossibly fluid. Stand still and fight me. Krish roared, his frustration mounting. All right, Cole replied, his voice calm. Then, faster than anyone could follow, he struck. His first punch landed squarely in Krish's midsection, the force of it sending the massive warrior skidding backward. Krish staggered, his 4 arms flailing as he struggled to regain his balance. But Cole didn't stop. He closed the distance in an instant, his fists a blur of calculated destruction. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the human dismantled Krish with surgical precision. Each strike was perfectly placed, exploiting weaknesses in the Forlac's exoskeleton that no one should have known about. By the time Cole stepped back, Krish was on the ground, wheezing and clutching his shattered limbs. Cole dusted off his hands and glanced up at the crowd. Who's next? The warriors of the Zarnak Dominion, beings who had conquered galaxies and crushed civilizations, took an involuntary step back. Theric's voice cut through the silence, though it lacked its usual confidence. What are you? Cole's smile returned, sharper this time, as though he were savoring a private joke. Just a human. You know, the species you all like to underestimate. At that moment, a Dralith tactician named Urel, known for her cold, calculating demeanor, stepped forward. Her silver eyes gleamed with something that looked suspiciously like fear. This is no ordinary human, she said, her voice trembling. No one moves like that. No one strikes with such precision. This is something else. Theric turned on her, desperate to regain control of the situation. Are you saying we should fear this creature? Urel didn't answer immediately. Instead, she activated a small holographic display, projecting detailed readings of Cole's performance during the fights. Look at these metrics. His reaction time is beyond anything we've documented. His strikes generate force that shouldn't be possible for a being of his size and physiology. And that smile, she trailed off, shivering. Theric snarled. It's a smile. What could it possibly mean? Cole's voice cut through the tense exchange. It means, he said, stepping closer to the edge of the arena, that I know something you don't. The crowd parted as he spoke, their unease palpable. And what might that be, human? Theric demanded, though his voice faltered slightly. Cole's smile widened, and his eyes seemed to gleam with a dangerous light. You think you're the apex predators of this galaxy, but you've never fought someone like me. You've never fought someone who enjoys this. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. For beings who prided themselves on their mastery of fear, the realization was devastating. This human wanted to fight. He wasn't surviving out of necessity. He was playing with them. Theric stepped back, his claws twitching as he struggled to mask his growing fear. You're bluffing, he growled. You can't possibly think you're stronger than the Dominion. Cole tilted his head, his smile never wavering. Stronger? No. Smarter? Faster? Maybe. But there's one thing humans have that you'll never understand. And what is that? Urel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Cole's expression darkened, his smile turning into something almost predatory. The capacity to adapt, to thrive in chaos, and to enjoy turning the tables on those who think they're invincible. The room was dead silent. For the first time in centuries, the warriors of the Zarnak Dominion weren't sure if they were the hunters or the prey. The arena felt as if it had been plunged into a vacuum, the air heavy with the weight of collective unease. Theric's claws scraped against the metal railing, his mind racing. This wasn't just a human. They were witnessing something they hadn't anticipated, a predator who knew how to weaponize fear itself. Enough of this charade, Theric bellowed, though his voice lacked the usual authority. He pointed toward two Kravix assassins who had been lurking in the shadows. They were smaller, but faster than most of the warriors in the Dominion, their venom-laced blades infamous for ending battles before they even began. Both of you, take him down. Now. The Kravix didn't hesitate, their bodies blurring as they leapt into action. The crowd, sensing a shift, began murmuring, hopeful that the assassins would succeed where Krish had failed. But Cole didn't move. He stood still, his hands at his sides, that unnerving smile fixed on his face. The assassins struck simultaneously, their blades slicing through the air in a synchronized attack. But just as the blades were about to connect, Cole sidestepped with such effortless precision that it looked as if he'd been standing in the wrong spot all along. One of the Kravix stumbled forward, momentarily off balance, and Cole used that split second to grab the assassin's arm, twisting it in a way that made an audible crack echo through the arena. The Kravix screamed as his blade clattered to the ground. The second assassin snarled and lunged again, but Cole caught his wrist mid-strike, holding the blade mere inches from his throat. For a moment, the assassin's compound eyes widened as he realized the sheer strength of the human's grip. Cole leaned in, his voice low, but carrying across the arena. You really shouldn't telegraph your moves. Makes it too easy. With a flick of his wrist, Cole disarmed the second Kravix and shoved him backward, sending him tumbling into the first assassin. Both lay on the ground, groaning and clutching their injuries. The crowd erupted into chaos, their fear turning into a palpable energy that filled the space. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans weren't supposed to win. Theric slammed his claw against the railing again, silencing the noise. Stop playing games, human, he roared. You think this proves your strength? You've defeated our warriors, but you've proven nothing about your species. Cole tilted his head, his smile fading into something more serious. Oh, this isn't about proving anything. Not yet. What does that mean? Urel asked, her voice trembling. Cole stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. You brought me here to test my combat abilities, to see if humans were worth fearing. But you didn't just want a warrior. You wanted a psychological profile. You wanted to know what makes humans tick. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Well, here's your answer. We don't fight because we want to. We fight because we have to. And when we do, his smile returned, sharper than ever. We enjoy every second of showing tyrants like you what happens when you push us too far. Theric's composure cracked. You dare speak to the Dominion like this? You're nothing but an experiment, a tool for us to analyze and exploit. Cole chuckled, a sound that sent chills down the spines of everyone present. You think you're the only ones doing the analyzing? Every time you've sent one of your warriors against me, I've been studying you. Your tactics, your weaknesses, your fear. His eyes locked on Theric's. And do you know what I've learned? Theric took an involuntary step back. What? That for all your bluster, all your power, the Dominion is just a house of cards. All it takes is one gust of wind to bring it down. The crowd erupted into shouts and protests, but Cole raised a hand, silencing them with nothing more than his presence. You wanted a test subject, Commander? Congratulations. You got one. But now, I've seen enough. I think it's time I return the favor. Before anyone could react, Cole reached into the pocket of his combat suit and pulled out a small device. It was sleek and unassuming, but the way he held it made it seem like a weapon of unimaginable power. Therek's eyes narrowed. What is that? Cole's smile turned deadly. A little parting gift from Earth. You see, we knew you'd come for us eventually. So, we made sure to leave a few surprises for anyone who thought we were easy prey. The device began to hum, emitting a low-frequency vibration that seemed to resonate through the arena. Warriors clutched their heads, wincing as the sound grew louder and more disorienting. What have you done? Yrel demanded, her voice barely audible over the noise. Cole's smile widened. Just leveling the playing field. You wanted to see what humans are capable of? Well, now you're about to find out. The hum reached a crescendo, and suddenly, the device emitted a blinding flash of light. When the light faded, Cole was gone, leaving behind only the shattered remains of the Dominion's confidence. Therek stumbled back, his claws shaking. Find him, he roared. He can't have gone far. But deep down, every warrior in the arena knew the truth. The human hadn't just escaped. He had left them with a message, one that would haunt them for generations. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were the one thing the Dominion had never prepared for. Unpredictable, adaptable, and worst of all, smiling through the chaos.